Deep within the most secure vaults on the planet, behind 53 miles of shelving, lies a story that could shatter our entire understanding of the past. At least, that's what a fascinating and popular internet theory claims. For years, they've been called conspiracies, whispers of a lost global empire deliberately erased from history. But what if the proof was real? What if it was all locked away by the Vatican itself? What if I told you that the grand ornate buildings in our own cities, the ones we're told were built in the 18th or 19th centuries, are actually far, far older? That they are the silent relics of a magnificent global civilization known as the Tartarian Empire. A civilization with technology so advanced, it could supposedly harness free energy from the very air around us. A civilization so powerful, it allegedly spanned the entire globe, from Asia to the Americas. And a civilization so threatening to the powers that be, that it had to be completely wiped from the history books. Proponents of this theory believe that a great cataclysm, a so-called mud flood, was used to bury their cities and hide their achievements, and that a secret cabal, with the Vatican at its heart, has worked for centuries to suppress the truth, locking away the maps, the texts, and the artifacts that would prove Tartaria existed. Tonight, we're peeling back the layers of this incredible story. We're going to look at the clues that followers of the theory point to, the seemingly impossible architecture, the strange, empty photographs of our oldest cities, and the ancient maps that tell a different story of our world. And we will journey deep into the heart of the conspiracy, into the secretive archives of the Vatican, to ask the ultimate question: what are they supposedly hiding? This isn't just a story about a lost empire. This is a story about a hidden past, a suppressed future, and the search for a truth that has captivated millions online. Our investigation begins not with a secret document, but with something that was once hidden in plain sight: a map. For centuries, from the 13th all the way to the 19th, maps made by the world's most respected European cartographers showed a vast, sprawling territory known as Tartaria, or Great Tartary. These weren't crude sketches. These were detailed atlases from names like Ortelius and De Fer, showing Tartaria as a dominant feature, stretching from the Caspian Sea across Siberia, and at times even seeming to reach the shores of the Americas. To believers in the Lost Empire, these maps are Exhibit A. They argue that the sheer consistency across hundreds of maps from different nations is undeniable proof. French, Dutch, German, and English mapmakers all depicted Tartaria as a massive, established entity. It's shown with distinct regions: Muscovite Tartary, Chinese Tartary, and independent Tartary, suggesting a complex political landscape, not just a vague, unknown space. The question they ask is, why would generations of cartographers meticulously chart a phantom empire? The theory posits that they weren't drawing a fantasy. They were recording a reality that was later systematically scrubbed. The mystery seems to deepen when you look at what happened in the 19th century. Suddenly, Tartaria begins to vanish from the maps. It's not a gradual fade, it's an abrupt disappearance. Lands once called Tartary are now labeled as Mongolia, Siberia, or Turkestan. To a mainstream historian, this is simply the natural progression of exploration. As unknown lands were charted and claimed, vague catch-all terms like Tartary were replaced with more precise names. The word Tartar, they say, was just a general term Europeans used for the various nomadic peoples of Central and Northern Asia, stemming from the Mongol invasions, and it never represented a single, unified empire. In fact, the name was likely a European invention, conflating the Tatar people with Tartarus, the hell of Greek mythology, due to the fear the Mongol hordes inspired. But for those who see a cover-up, this explanation is too simple, too convenient. They argue that this wasn't an update, it was a redaction, a coordinated effort to write a global power out of existence. The official story claims that Tartary was a term born of ignorance, But theorists argue the maps weren't blank. They were filled with cities, rivers, and borders. They depicted a known civilization, not an unknown void. The question they leave us with is chilling. How do you make an empire that covered most of Asia disappear? According to the theory, you start by redrawing the maps. You change the names, and you teach future generations a new version of history, one where Tartaria never existed at all. The maps, they say, are the first and most blatant clue. If the maps are the outline of the mystery, the architecture is, according to the theory, the physical proof, towering over us in plain sight. Proponents of the Tartarian theory ask you to do one simple thing. Look up. Look at the grand, ornate buildings that dominate our oldest cities, the stone columns, the majestic domes, the intricate facades. We're told these are Beaux-Arts, neoclassical or Gothic revival buildings, constructed in the 18th and 19th centuries. But the theory offers a more radical explanation. These are not copies of ancient styles. They are the original ancient structures, the surviving remnants of the worldwide Tartarian Empire. The argument is one of scale and similarity. How is it that cities from San Francisco to St. Petersburg, from Melbourne to Mumbai, all feature buildings in a strikingly similar, grandiose style? Mainstream history explains this as a result of the popularity of neoclassical and Beaux-Arts styles, which were fashionable among Western powers during an age of global influence. But theorists find this explanation lacking. They question how pre-industrial societies, with horse-drawn carts, could have constructed so many thousands of monumental stone buildings with such precision in such a short period. Early photos of major world capitals often show these magnificent structures looming over deserted, muddy streets, which theorists see as evidence that these cities were being found and re-inhabited, not built. This leads to a famous and controversial part of the theory, the Great Mud Flood. Look closely at many of these old buildings, and you might notice windows and doors halfway buried below street level. The theory posits that a cataclysmic mud flood buried the Tartarian world under meters of soil. The survivors, or new people who came after, simply dug out the tops of the buildings and started new cities on a higher ground level. Geologists and archaeologists, of course, have a straightforward explanation. Cities are living things. Over centuries, street levels naturally rise as new roads are paved over old ones and debris accumulates. What look like buried windows were often intentionally designed to get light into basement levels before electricity. But proponents of the mud flood theory feel this does not account for the sheer scale of the phenomenon, seen in cities across the globe. The architectural mystery in this theory extends to lost advanced technology. Many of these Tartarian buildings are adorned with intricate metal spires and domes. According to the theory, these weren't merely decorative. They were part of a sophisticated system for harnessing atmospheric energy. Star forts, the geometrically perfect fortifications found all over the world, are reimagined not as defensive structures, but as power plants. This was a civilization, they claim, that had cracked the code of free, wireless energy, a technology later suppressed. There is, of course, no physical or historical evidence to support this idea of a free energy network. But theorists argue that's the entire point. The cataclysm and the cover-up were designed not just to erase a people, but to erase their knowledge, unplugging the world from clean energy and plugging it into a system based on scarcity and profit. Every grand conspiracy theory needs a heart of darkness, a central place from which the cover-up is orchestrated. In the Tartarian narrative, that center is the Vatican. The theory posits that deep within its fortified walls, in the legendary Vatican Apostolic Archive, lie the ultimate proof of Tartaria's existence and the story of its demise. The accusation is explosive, that the Vatican didn't just witness the fall of Tartaria, it either orchestrated it or became the custodian of its suppressed history. The supposed motive? Ultimate power. Tartaria was allegedly a civilization with a different form of spirituality, one that would have posed a threat to the centralized religious authority of the Catholic Church. To maintain its dominion, Tartaria had to be eliminated and its memory purged. The Vatican Apostolic Archive, often called the Secret Archives, is the perfect vessel for such a theory. With an estimated 53 miles of shelving, its contents are the stuff of legend. While the archives have been accessible to qualified scholars since 1881, the process is tightly controlled, and countless documents remain unseen by outside eyes. It is in this vast repository that theorists believe the Tartarian Files are hidden. But the accusation goes beyond just hiding old documents, entering the realm of science fiction with the legend of the chronovisor. The story emerged in the 1960s from a Benedictine monk, Father Pellegrino Ernetti. Ernetti claimed he and a team of scientists had secretly built a device for the Vatican that could view the past, a time viewer. He claimed to have witnessed historical events and even produced a supposed photo of Christ on the cross, which was later widely debunked as a reversed image of a carving. Before his death, Ernetti reportedly recanted his claims, but many believers insist he was pressured into silence. For Tartarian theorists, the chronovisor is the ultimate tool of the cover-up. What if the Vatican could literally watch history as it happened? They could have witnessed the full glory of Tartaria and the mud flood, then use that knowledge to meticulously edit the historical record. The Vatican has always denied the existence of the chronovisor, dismissing it as a hoax. But in the world of forbidden history, such denials are often taken as confirmation. The allegation remains. Within the heart of the Catholic Church, they claim, lies the final, most heavily guarded secret of our stolen past. After journeying through a labyrinth of forbidden maps and mud-flooded cities, it's essential to hit pause and listen to the voice of mainstream academic history. For every sensational claim about Tartaria, there's a sober, evidence-based counter-explanation. And the scholarly consensus is clear. The Tartarian Empire as a lost, technologically advanced global civilization is a myth. First, the maps. Historians explain that Tartary was a real term, but it was a geographic exonym, a name applied by outsiders, in this case Western Europeans, to a vast, poorly understood part of Asia. From the 13th to the 19th centuries, European knowledge of the area was scarce. Tartary was a convenient blanket term for the lands inhabited by various nomadic groups. The disappearance of Tartaria from maps wasn't an act of erasure, but a sign of advancing knowledge. As explorers charted the interior, the vague label was naturally replaced by accurate names like Siberia and Mongolia. Next is the architecture. The idea that thousands of ornate buildings are relics of one empire is rejected by architectural historians. The styles, neoclassical, beaux-arts, Gothic revival, are exceptionally well documented. We have the blueprints, construction records, financial ledgers, and biographies of the architects. The grand buildings of the world's fairs, often cited as Tartarian, were famously temporary structures made of plaster and wood fibers designed to last for a few months before being torn down, with their construction and demolition well photographed. The mud flood hypothesis is similarly dismissed by geologists and archaeologists. There is no geological evidence for a single global mud flood event in recent history. Such a catastrophe would have left an unmistakable sedimentary layer across the planet, which simply does not exist. The buried windows are explained by urban development, like the deliberate raising of streets to install sewer systems, or by architectural designs for basement lighting. As for advanced technology, these claims are considered pseudoscience. Star forts have a well-documented history as military fortifications developed to withstand cannon fire. Their shape was for function, not for channeling energy. There is no evidence that domes and spires on old buildings were part of an energy grid. Finally, the claims about the Vatican are entirely unsubstantiated. While the Vatican archive is vast, it has been a center for scholarly research for over a century, No credible historian who has worked there has ever reported finding evidence of a lost global empire named Tartaria. The chronovisor story is widely regarded as a hoax, with the key proof exposed as a fake, and its creator reportedly admitting to the fabrication. In essence, historians argue that the Tartarian Empire is a modern myth, born on the internet, and fueled by misinterpreting maps, misunderstanding architecture, and ignoring vast amounts of documented evidence. So, where does this leave us? On one hand, we have the official academic narrative, a well-documented history where Tartary was a geographical misnomer. On the other, a tantalizing conspiracy, a lost golden age of a global empire erased by a cataclysm and a centuries-long cover-up. The skeptical view is logical, orderly, and supported by a mountain of scholarship. It tells us that the Tartarian theory is a fascinating example of how modern anxieties can weave disparate anomalies into a compelling but fictional tapestry. It's a case study in seeing a conspiracy where there is only the messy, complicated process of history itself. The story is compelling, but according to the evidence, it's just a story. And yet, for many, the official explanations feel incomplete. They don't fully extinguish the sense of wonder that the evidence ignites. Can the similarity of grand architecture across continents truly be dismissed as just a passing fashion? When you stand before a colossal stone structure and see old photos of horse-drawn carts on muddy streets below, is it so unreasonable to feel a sense of disconnect? Why do so many ancient cultures share myths of a great flood and of civilization bringers who arrived after a cataclysm? Is it possible that the Tartarian theory, in its own modern way, is tapping into a genuine ancient memory of a lost epoch? A memory that has been dismissed as myth but refuses to completely disappear? And what of the Vatican? An institution that has operated for millennia and possesses an archive so vast that no one truly knows all of its contents. While the chronovisor is almost certainly fiction, the Vatican's historical role as both a preserver and a suppressor of knowledge is complex. Can we be so certain that its 53 miles of shelves hold no inconvenient truths? Ultimately, the appeal of the Tartarian Empire may not be about whether it was real or fake. Perhaps the theory itself acts as a powerful lens, forcing us to question what we think we know. It challenges the simple, linear view of history that suggests we are the pinnacle of human achievement. It asks us to entertain the possibility that great civilizations may have existed long before our own, and that their stories have been lost to time. We are left with a choice: to accept the tidy, documented version of history, or to believe that the world is older and more mysterious than we are told. Was Tartaria a real empire? The evidence says no, but Tartaria has also become a name for a feeling, a deep-seated intuition that the official story of our past is missing some of its most important chapters. The final decision, as always, rests with you. What do you think? Is the Tartarian Empire one of the most elaborate and fascinating myths of the internet age? Or is there something more to it? Look at the old buildings in your own town. Do you see the work of 19th century craftsmen, or do you see echoes of something else? Let us know your theories and your own local discoveries in the comments below. The search for the truth is a conversation we must all be a part of. If you believe history holds more secrets than we've been told, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. The story of Tartaria is a powerful reminder that history is not always a settled thing. It is a battlefield of narratives where accepted facts can be challenged and hidden stories can rise to the surface. Whether you view it as a conspiracy or a historical misinterpretation, the legend of this lost empire forces us to look at our world with fresh eyes. The questions raised by the Tartaria phenomenon are profound. Are we the first advanced civilization on this planet? What knowledge may have been lost over time? And most importantly, who gets to write the story of humanity? The journey into the heart of the Tartarian mystery reveals that sometimes the most powerful truths aren't found in what we're told, but in the questions we are brave enough to ask. The search for Tartaria is, in the end, a search for ourselves, for a past that might be far grander and a future that could be far different than we have ever been led to believe. Thank you for watching.